Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Williams here with a brand new video for you guys today. Welcome to the channel. Hope you're all feeling good, looking good, smelling good, because your boy is back with a video for you guys today. In today's video, it's going to be a reaction video to Hobie World. Did a video called The Issue of Women's Football. I'm the women's football guy. You know, this channel's all about not just FC players, but also just women's sports in general. So we're going to react to this video. As I always say when it comes to my reaction videos, they're going to be played at a higher speed, and some things might get edited out. And the very first link in the description box below will be the link to this original video. So you want to see it in its normal speed and without me editing things out, go to Hobie World's video, watch it, leave him a like, subscribe if you want to, and that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. The first thing I will say, I saw the thumbnail for this video. The thumbnail's like a video of Alicia Lamy's ass and the caption "Gyat." So if the first thing that I'm going to see from him is him sexualizing the women, that's a problem right there to begin the video. Don't sexualize the women. You know, watch the sport because you like football, not because you want to freaking look at someone's ass. Get into it though.
Alright, first off, the marketing for women's matches is absolute ass. You see, I could talk about the terrible broadcasting, but sometimes the only way you can watch a women's game is by finding it on a site, which I don't personally do.
That's the first mistake there. A lot of the women's games you can watch for free. Yeah, a lot of women's games you watch for free. For example, the WSL, which is the women's Barclays League, aka the women's UK UK league. You can watch that on YouTube. Majority of their games air on YouTube for free. Liga F, the league that a lot of people are familiar with because of the women's Barcelona team being as dominant as they are. Liga F games for free on DAZN. Not just that, Arkema League free on DAZN, Women's Champions League free on DAZN, Women's Google Pixel League, which is Bundesliga, Women's League free on DAZN. You see what I'm getting here, right? Women's for the USA. Women's USA teams air on the NWSL website for free. Some games air on Paramount Plus, some games will air on ESPN or ESPN 2 or ESPN Plus, some games air on CBS. So yeah, you don't really have to go look for like any sites to go watch women's games. We're trying to like watch like maybe the Italian league, but I think the Italian league is also on DAZN for free. So yeah.
And even through that method, you're gonna have to like watch through 3 or 4 different sites, and you gotta hack through that shit like your prime Aiden Pierce. But you see, the match marketing isn't my main issue. No, my main issue is the player marketing. Now you see, in men's football, the most popular players are typically the best ones. Ronaldo, Messi are by far the most followed footballers ever, and that's based on the fact that they've been the best players for pretty much the last 2 decades. Okay, now that that's sorted out, let's take a look at the 5 most followed women's football players. In 5th place is Norma Palafox with 2.2 million followers on IG. Now, like everybody that follows her, I'm gonna come clean. She only has this many followers because she has a grande culo. In the landscape of women's football, she's nothing special.
So the next thing I would say when it comes to like, because I already know where this is going, he's going to have like 5 chicks who are probably all like baddies. That's not the sports problem. Like if this video is the issue in football and that they need to freaking fix, and you're saying like it's player marketing, it's not their fault that men are gooners. Like when it comes to the top 5 women, having a lot who have a lot of followers, just being people who have nice bodies to look at, that's not the sports fault. That's the people who are following them fault. Like if you sit there and you go watch a porn, that's just on you. You chose to do that. So all the followers that she got or Alicia Lamy got, whoever else probably made this freaking list, I haven't seen this video yet. That's on the people who follow them, not the sport itself. Is men being thirsty dogs more so than anything else. That's why they have those followers.
Yet she is the 5th most followed women's footballer ever, courtesy of pure ass. Getting that many followers just because of pure ass. That's like Rasmus Højlund having 200 million followers. The 4th most followed is Marta, 2.9 million followers. An absolute legend in the game. This kind of influence is a testament to her legacy. This one I can't complain about. This next one I can. 3rd most followed is Anna Markovic. Yep, same as Palafox. Dudes arrive at her Instagram account with a full load and leave empty. 2nd most followed is Alexia Putellas, 3.3 million followers. She's what, the 2nd, 3rd best women's footballer right now? This is 100% justified. And then we get
So here's what I'll say now too. So out of this list, we've seen two people who don't deserve to be in it and two people who have deserve to be in it. Puteas is not just one of the best players right now. She's going to go down in history as one of the top 5 greatest women's players of all time. Marta with freaking Carly Lloyd with Alex Morgan. So yeah, you also throw Mia Hamm in there too. And that's kind of sounds like a short dig at Hammond. Is not, but those were people who are considered like the greatest of all time. Martha has an award named after her by FIFA. Like the women's version of Ballon d'Or is called the Martha Award. So yeah. But I'm sure he's gonna freaking mention Layman next. But again, this isn't like the way he starts off this part of the video. He starts it off by like making it seem like it's the sports fault that these people have, the followers that they have. It's not the sports fault that people follow, the people who they follow. That's literally that's your choice. You're the one who pulls up your phone, you type in their name to the search engine, or you click a link that leads to their profile, and you hit the freaking follow. Not him in particular, but like when it comes to these people who he's talking about, that's just men being thirsty. It's not a issue when it comes to marketing for the women's game. Frankly, if those who actually watch the women's game, the marketing's actually been pretty decent, especially when it comes to the NWSL. The NWSL has done a very, very good job at marketing the sport, which is why it has grown exponentially over the last couple of years. There was a time for NWSL where they were airing their games on Twitch because they were just getting their feet wet and they didn't have like a lot going on. And I used to do co-streams of their Twitch streams because they allowed you to do it. But because of like how successful that was going, they started to get brand deals. They started to get marketing deals with CBS and Paramount. So they games moved from Twitch to Paramount Plus. Then from there to this year, where they have their games, on ESPN, ABC, CBS, Paramount Plus, their own website, NWSL Plus, which is free. But again, point out, it's called Plus, but it's not subscription service. It's free. The WSL has been doing very good at marketing. There's names from the WSL who you wouldn't know unless their marketing was asked. If their marketing was asked, you wouldn't know who Lauren James is. If the marketing was asked, you wouldn't know who Chloe Kelly is. If the marketing was asked, you wouldn't know who Sam Kerr is or Black Stenius is. You wouldn't know who Greenwood is. You wouldn't know who Leigh Williamson is. You wouldn't know these players. You wouldn't know who Mariana is. You wouldn't know any of those players. But you do because the marketing for WSL is actually pretty freaking good. And the same thing goes when it comes to Barcelona and Real Madrid, who Madrid sucks, but their marketing is good enough so people know the names of those players. And yes, those teams do have some players who are only popular because of again, thirsty men, and that comes from the video game. They see these people aren't in a video game, they go, damn, she's a baddie. Let me go look up her IG.
Get to number 1, who has more followers than everybody else in the top 5 combined.
How about that prick's face when he showed a gat?
Alicia Layman with 16 million followers. The face of women's football is Alicia Layman. Okay.
And that's not true. Like, if you're basing off just followers, then I guess, but it's not. No one who's serious about women's football even cares she exists. The only people who, like, again, go back to marketing, the only people who market her is the Swiss national team and Juventus. They market her because they know that men are thirsty, gooning freaking losers. So they'll plaster her all over their like advertising because they want you to come watch Juventus or watch the Swiss national team. But she doesn't even freaking play. She's not even a starter. She sucks. And that's kind of what his point is, that these players who have all these followers, aren't good. But she's not. She's trash. But you can't say she's the face of the sport just because she has, a lot of followers, because that's not the case. She's not the face of the sport. She's never freaking like, marketed by UEFA or FIFA, or she's never like shown anything when it comes to the Ballon d'Or ceremony or any kind of award ceremony. If she was being marketed as the best, you will see her a lot. You don't see her in Nike ads, you see Puteas. You don't see her in Adidas ads, you see Belmonte. So like, when you look at advertisers, who are they actually using? They're using Puteas, they're using Sophia Wilson, they're using Trinity Rodman, they're using, again, Belmonte. That's who they're using. They're using the actual best players. They're using Marta, they're using Lizzie Heaps. They're using the best players. They're not using people who have the most followers.
Okay, so guys, I really wanted to put into context how crazy and absurd this is. So I want to show you guys the male football equivalent of Layman. Now, she's 26 and she plays as a winger. Now, guys, do not let that ass fool you, okay? She is not world class. To be honest, in the women's football game, she is kind of average. I know a lot of people put onus on FIFA ratings, so in FIFA, she is a...
Also, if you're curious on why she even plays for freaking, the team she plays for, it is a bit of nepotism. Douglas Costa is her husband, and I'm pretty sure whenever he signs contracts, he asks those teams like, hey, if I'm going to sign for you, you got to get her. So they want to stay playing in the same country, essentially. That was part of his package to Juventus is, hey, you got to sign up my wife. So Juventus signed her, even though she's on the freaking bench.
Staggering 81 rating. So I did some research. I sought out to find a male footballer that is 25 to 26 years old, also plays on the wing just like Layman, and is not really world class and probably like a good 80 to 82 rated on FIFA, right? And ladies and gentlemen, we have our comparison. The male footballing equivalent of Alicia Layman is Jadon Sancho. Now imagine Jadon Sancho being the most followed footballer in the world. A lot of women's footballers are only gassed because they look like Kelly Kelly. Like, bro, I went onto YouTube to look up Alicia.
And again, that's not the sport's fault. That's the people who are watching them fault. Again, you can't fault the sport or the team's marketing for people being thirsty. That, like, even when it comes to like people who he didn't name, there's other players who the FC community, for example, give nicknames to that are just downright degrading and disgusting, like just horribly disgusting and degrading it. And it comes like the sexualizing that they do with female players, and it's like that's not their fault. That's the people who are doing. Like, we have to like get out of this mindset where you're basically like it's kind of like slut shaming in a way, where it's like, hey, I'm beating my dick to you, but that's your fault. You're making me do this, even though, not. It's like, no one's making you follow these players. You're choosing to do that because you're thirsty. And you're either A, a weirdo, or B, you're just a gooner.
Layman's goals. So I typed in Alicia Layman G before I could even finish typing in goals. The first search was not Alicia Layman goals. It was Alicia Layman Yats. Women's football needs to do a better job at actually marketing their actual good players. And at the same time,
I disagree.
Gooners need to chill the
I know we're constantly like stopping and starting here, but I disagree. I think they do a decent enough job when it comes to how they market their better players. Like I said, there's ads for Nike, Adidas, UEFA, Ballon d'Or, FIFA, all the big publications. There's ads for them where it's Sophia Wilson, it's Trinity Rodman, it's Alexi Putellas, it's Bon Mati, it's Marta. Even when it comes to like other sports, in the exact same ads, you will see freaking Naomi Osaka, you'll see Coco Gauff, you'll see before she retired Serena Williams. Like they're getting good advertisement relative to their contract situation. Because you got to also remember this when it comes to sports is how much money a sponsor is going to invest into a sport and into the players is based on how much money that sport and its players are generating for revenue. So if your sport doesn't have a high revenue push out, you're going to have less exposure. So in general, women's sports don't have the same amount of money as men's sports do. So, and that's not because anything other than you get what you generate. If your stadiums aren't selling out, if your tickets aren't selling out, if your jersey sales aren't going through the freaking roof, you make less money. So therefore your contracts are less, and therefore sponsors are like, hey, we're not going to give you the same kind of money we just gave Manchester United's men's team, because the men's team is making this much more money than the women's team. So it makes logical sense. Again, this situation is more so a fan problem, not the league's problems.
You know I got you. Yeah. So here's another issue that I have with women's football. Stop playing under 15 boys. It ends the same way every time. I know every time a bunch of grown-ass women rock up to an under 15 boys training ground, they're just thinking to themselves, how many times do we gotta teach you this lesson, old man? Look, this isn't WWE, okay? Stop the intergender matches. It's like women.
This is misleading. I'm going to point this out when it comes to like why this is misleading. For example, the one with the Swiss team that happened recently where they lost 7-1 to under 15s team. It wasn't an actual game. It was like a training session where they kept tally of score, but it was like an actual game where they were actually like trying to play. I'm not saying they still wouldn't lose, but they were tuning up for the women's Euros, so they weren't really trying to do much, you know. So it's misleading to say like they're out here just losing to these teams. And a lot of the times when you see like these women scores against teams, they're not even using like their best players. It's usually like bench players, people who are on reserves, people who kind of need the reps and weren't getting those reps with their club because they're not starting for a club. Things like that. So it can be a little misleading.
Women's football reaches a new height, breaks a new attendance record, makes more revenue than ever before, silences all the critics, finally get the respect that they've been trying to get for decades.
I like how the first 6 minutes of this video is talking about how they don't market the women, but then he has a picture of Lauren James, who's obviously being shown in an advertisement, which means what?
They think to themselves, hey, we're doing pretty good right now. You know what we should do? Let's beat a couple of kids. And they lose 7-1 every time. Look, women's football is on fire lately, okay? Let's not f that up with a little bad press. So women are about, what, 8 to 10% smaller than men, right? And I mean the average man, compared to, I don't know, like my GOAT, yeah, they're about the same size. So why do they play in these big ass stadiums that the guys play in too? This is why a lot of women's games feels very slow paced and tired, especially like after the hour mark, because they be playing on pitch.
I will say most of them don't. Most of them aren't playing in the big men's stadiums. Most of them are playing in a different stadium or like a training park. When they do play in the men's stadiums, it's usually like special occasions, like a derby. I think like just this year for the first time, they actually made it to where the Arsenal women's team will also play in the Arsenal, I forgot what it was called, I think it's the Emirates. They're also going to play in the same stadium as the men's, but before they weren't. The Barcelona women's team, they were not playing at Camp Nou. They only play at Camp Nou during special occasions. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to like most of them. They all kind of play, they only play in the men's stadium on special occasions. Like United don't play at Old Trafford. They only will play there if they're playing against City or playing against Chelsea or playing against Arsenal. That's kind of what they do. More and more teams are starting to like, push into having them play in the same stadiums as the men's. But for the most part, it's usually just special occasions. On the flip side, over in the United States, women have their own stadiums. Portland Thorns have their own stadium. KC Kern, they have a new stadium that's meant for the KC Kern. It's like theme for them is not the men's stadium, it's the KC Kern's own stadium. A lot of women play either play in their own stadium or they'll play in like a college stadium, which is usually a little bit smaller when it comes to soccer. So it's a lot better in the United States when it comes to how, because they have their, when they build their stadiums, they have a good idea on how many people they can seat. So you watch a Portland Thorns game, they're usually always sold out when you watch a Portland Thorns game, because they know how to make sure that, hey, we built this place to seat this many people because we know how many people are going to come to these games, because it's one of the most popular teams in the WSL, which for those who don't know, the WSL is the Premier League of women's soccer. So like when you think about the toughest league in men's soccer, you always go Premier League. In women's soccer, it's the NWSL. So there's more eyes on that league, and there be more eyes, there's more fans, and there's also just a higher chance of stadiums getting packed out. The only times you see like an empty stadium in WSL is when it's one of the bad teams like Houston Dash or during bad weather.
That is just way too broad for them. Like, guys, if men were playing on pitches that are 20% bigger than what they're used to, high quality Champions League matches are gonna start looking like AFCON matches after extra time. Now, of course,
you could have just said the Club World Cup.
Stupid, okay?
If you want to use an actual comparison of the men's team playing in stadiums that are bigger than what they're used to, use the Club World Cup. Not like in those stadiums. Those stadiums are huge.
I recognize that you can't build a stadium that accommodates women's footballers because they haven't generated enough revenue to necessitate a task like that. But what about doing something for free, like reducing the pitch size by maybe 20%? Now, I know the distance between the fans and the pitch is gonna feel as distant as a West Ham game, where if the fans ever tried a pitch invasion, they'd have to take a taxi there. But I genuinely just think that the match is gonna flow better that way. Also, a lot of goals in women's matches are ridiculous, to say the least. But hey, again, I want to say women's goalkeepers are... I
feel like he probably like just Googled the worst goals in women's soccer and hasn't actually seen enough women's games to have like an actual opinion. These are, like I said before, when you see clips like that, those are usually like some of the worst teams in the sport. like teams who are playing it in like just the worst leagues. They're not, and they're not the NWSL. They're not Barcelona versus Real Madrid. They're not Barcelona versus Atletico. They're not OL versus PSG games. Like it's like third division Swiss, games.
Typically shorter than male goalkeepers, and yet they still use the same goalpost length. So how about instead of women using the typical 8 foot by 24 feet, they instead make it 7 feet by 20 feet? I know a lot of people like how the women's game's going right now, but I think this could go a long way in preventing certain things, such as... Last year, everybody in the men's game was complaining about a rise in ACL injuries. I know women's football fans were looking at them and thinking, hey, first time? But yes, ACLs in the women's game is as common as OF models in the comment section of a Twitter post. It happens more frequently in the women's game than it does in the men's game. Now, look, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins is, so I can't even begin to tell you why exactly this all happens. Another thing that keeps...
The actual reason why it happens is the pitches themselves. This is a big issue in the United States, especially because the United States, they use turf. Turf has been shown to cause more injuries than grass. The turf is easier to maintain than grass is. So a lot of American leagues, even the NFL, prefer to use turf to save money. The NFL has a massive issue with ACL injuries because of turf. Probably the same situation when it comes to every, sport team that plays on some more freaking turf or grass. You want to get more injuries. At the same time, these athletes are playing more and more games. That's more wear and tear on your body, which is going to lead to a higher chance of getting injuries.
Keeps women out of the game for ages.
So again, I want to say this: making the goalpost smaller, making the field smaller, won't change injuries. And also, none of the women would agree to that kind of changes. It's like the whole conversation between Shaq and Candace Parker, where Shaq was like, "Hey, y'all will get more viewers if y'all can dunk." And I feel like the best way for y'all to dunk would be if y'all make the rim smaller, like lower it down a little bit. And Candace Parker's like, "No, we're not doing that."
Is pregnancies. Okay, a lot of male football fans complain when a woman is commentating on a men's game. I don't know her name, but there's this female commentator that commentates on Premier League games, and every time she does, people always complain, right? Look, man, I don't think she's the worst. Have you ever heard Jamie Carragher's commentary for a Liverpool game? It is just 90 minutes of pure dick riding in your ear. And every time Liverpool scored, he comes back like a minute later, all breathless and joyful, like he just had a quickie in the booth. Or Peter Drury, who, honestly, for the most part, I really do appreciate, but we don't always need poetry. I remember he had this piece of commentary where he was talking about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he was saying how he was the boy that grew up as a fan of Spider-Man. Peter, that's literally every fucking boy ever. What does having to be a fan of Spider-Man have to do with a striker that scores 2 goals a season for Everton? I mean, as a whole, I do think that modern English commentary is mid. If you really want to enjoy a game, slap on some Arab commentary. It could be the most boring game ever, and these guys will be hyping that shit up, making it feel like if one of the team loses, then their family members are literally going to be slaughtered outside of the stadium. Arab commentators start singing random songs, they point out baddies in the stands. Like, man, they just elevate games. So yes, I do think there's a problem in English commentary, but it's definitely not the women. Next complaint from guys is women in FIFA. Now listen, y'all. I understand some of the complaints. How do you think I feel when my 6'5" demigod Virgil van Dijk loses an aerial battle to 5'3" Japanese schoolgirl Riza Shimizu? But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, we really shouldn't be bothered about this. 1, I am urging you guys to not have any emotional investment in Ultimate Team in 2025. And 2, saying that women having the same rating as guys or outdoing guys or being in the same team as guys in Ultimate Team is unrealistic, is kind of pointless, because I could boot up Ultimate Team right now and make a team that has an attack of Gabriel Martinelli and Pele and get scored on by my opponent who is playing Peter Cech at striker. Nothing about...
The other thing also about this is you're playing a video game where you have dead people on your team, which means that the game automatically is unrealistic. You score unrealistic goals. You can play defense unrealistic ways. Even when it comes to the comparison about people who are shorter winning the ball, people who are taller, you can win headers with freaking Messi. So Messi's like what, 5'6", 5'7". There's short players in the game. Even Pele's not that tall. There's short men in the game who still do the exact same thing the women players can do. And it's not even like that comments where it's like, if you do a header 10 times, the Benia is going to win that header over freaking, Peter Crouch or freaking DVD. No, VVD's probably going to win that header at least 6 times, 7 times. And I'd be like, well, that's kind of the problem. It should be 10 times. It's a video game. If you want to see realism, either go watch an actual football game or go play it your damn self. It's a video game. It's not supposed to be realistic. If it was realistic, it'd be the most boring game you can freaking play. Because typical freaking soccer matches, IRL, aren't going to be freaking, 7 to 9 games like they are in FIFA. It's going to be freaking 2-0, 1-0, 0-0. You know, games like that. You know, at FC, a goal off the corner scored like freaking at least 2 or 3 times a game if you get enough corners. IRL, this is an actual statistic. A goal in the Premier League is scored from a corner kick once every 10 games. Unless you're Arsenal, then it's a little bit more.
About this is realistic. And last but not least, another complaint that men have about women in football is Aluko. Now look, I personally feel that Aluko is the dumbest person that has ever appeared in front of a TV ever. But unfortunately, Aluko suffers from something called the burden of representation. So that means if a certain person from a certain demographic does something stupid, it's not just them that gets hate, it's their entire demographic that gets hate. It's like when I say something stupid and then my people get criticized. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like when I say something stupid and you guys criticize billionaires. I am, of course, joking. Manscaped, please sponsor my next video. I am on the verge of bankruptcy. So guys, that's why I have to say this. If somebody like Aluko says something stupid, let's not make it a thing about her people. Let's make it about her. Aluko's dumb. F women. Whoa, no. That's not what we're doing. Aluko's dumb. F black women. No. That's not it either. Aluko's dumb. Damn, she's stupid, man. You know what, man? We'll take that. We'll take that. It's a work in progress. But anyways, guys, that's all my criticisms. None of this really comes from a place of hate. I enjoy women's football. And as a Chelsea fan, I really enjoy us winning every single season. And look, y'all, this ain't the early 2000s anymore. The women's game is doing great. And with even more time, it's going to be doing even better. And that's how I feel about World Gang. So shout out to everybody that has joined the journey.
That's it for that video. I don't know. I feel like it's mostly a comedic video. So therefore, I'm not trying to take like too much of what he was saying serious. It seemed like this video more exists for comedy than anything else, which is why he has like the initial first 6 minutes of the video kind of being misleading when it comes to marketing, because he literally titled he prefaces by saying there's a marketing problem, and then he just uses Instagram followers as an example of the marketing problem. It's like none of the players who you listed, other than the ones who deserve it, aka Marta and Putellas, are being put in advertisement. Other like Lehman gets put into like stuff for Sweden and for Juventus because they're not dumb. They do want the male audience to watch. They're like, hey, here's Lehman on the poster, even though you won't see her freaking play because she's ass. But that's it for me. Hope you all enjoy. As I said before, the link to this original video will be in the description box below. So go ahead and click down there, hit his link to go watch the original video in its normal speed, and to see anything that I edited out. Because I did edit out some stuff. At the same time, in the description box below is my link tree that will get you to anything and everything you want to get to when it comes to my other channel that I primarily do reviews on and gameplays for other video games. There's my Twitch stream where I do streams of RPGs and shooters. So hope you have the rest of y'all afternoon. Check out Toby World. I've seen a few of his videos. So if you enjoy his content, subscribe, leave a like if you want to watch more of his stuff. You know, he does. I would say his best content, if you want like a recommendation, is when he talks about like the streets won't forget players who, you know, kind of get forgotten by the mass media, but we as football fans won't forget. And if you play FC, you've seen the, you know, Ibarbo and Doumbia like cards that came out and they were titled Streets won't forget. I kind of like look at Toby as like the one who kind of like initiated that becoming an idea for EA. Did they still an idea? I don't know, but I look at it that way. So I'll see you guys next video. Be boys, Archer out of here.